If you're 60 plus, one of the most likely causes of injuries and even death is falling. In this video, I'm going to show you 3 incredible exercises to make sure your next years are your best years. When you lose your balance, there's 3 main ways your body will try to combat that to keep you on your feet and keep you steady. It starts really from the ground up, and the first strategy that we're going to go over with an exercise is the ankle strategy. So for small little changes in the terrain, like a slight slope downward or sideways, our bodies are really good at just making adjustments, fine-tuning at the ankle level. So if you don't have an ability for your ankle to move in all directions and to be able to react, it's going to lead to a much higher likelihood of falls. The first thing we're going to do is make sure you have an ability to stand at the very minimum on one leg for 5 seconds. The goal would be to work up to 30 seconds to really make sure you have a higher level of safety. Now you'll start off by just putting a chair behind you. That way you know if you lose your balance, there's something there to catch you. Even better if you just do this in front of a couch. You can place something on either side of you for stability from your arms. But once you have that all set up and you feel safe, then you're gonna just work on getting onto one leg. You wanna make sure you have a slight bend in your knee. And then the focus is on keeping your weight forward. The majority, like 90+% of falls are gonna happen backwards or posterior. So our body's always trying to protect our face. So when we do exercises, we need to strengthen that front side to keep us from going backwards to be able to react to that. So when we're in this position, what we see with patients all the time is they'll keep their weight on their heels and then they'll fall backwards like so. So when you're doing this exercise, what you want to do is make sure that you have your big toe, your heel, it's like a tripod almost, underneath your big toe and on the outside by your pinky toe and your heel are forming a stable base with those 3 points of contact. Dig your big toe and all your toes, flex them into the ground so that you have stability like you're clawing into the floor, and then you hold that with a slight bend in the knee. A lot of times we'll see people keep their knee straight, their weight's on their heel, and they're balancing like this, which is really not using your ankle strategy that we talked about at all. So the goal again, flexed knee, 3 points of contact down the foot, hold 30 seconds. Now you can alternate how the other foot is positioned so that you have different muscles working. When I stand on that same 3 points of contact, I bring this foot forward, it's going to change what muscles are working. More so glute, hamstrings, and then if I put this leg back behind me, it's going to change the emphasis as well, more towards the hip flexor and the quad. If you're new to the channel, my name's Tim Mentor, doctor of physical therapy and orthopedic specialist. I've spent over 20 years helping people get out of pain and make sure their next years are their best years. If that becomes too difficult or you're looking for more of a challenge, you can pick up any number of balance pads on the internet. I'll put a link for some in the video description here. I have a higher level TheraBand balance pad here. You can see it's fairly unstable. This is going to go better, and really the floor single leg balance will go better as well if you do it in a barefoot so that you can make sure you have good contact. Wearing a shoe puts me further away from the ground and makes me less stable. You can see here it's definitely more difficult for me to hold that position, but I still have that same focus on those 3 points of contact, knee bent, and I might have to periodically put that other foot down to keep me stable, but this will get you well on your way to extremely strong balance on that ankle strategy component. Now let's say you're walking and you step on something uneven or your balance gets perturbed a bit and that ankle strategy cannot get the job done to keep you stable. Well, then it moves up the chain and we're looking at more of a trunk or hip strategy. So that ankle leaves you unstable. Now we need to correct our balance so we don't fall backwards, because most falls again happen backwards. So we need to build our hip flexor and abdominal strength and reactivity so that we're able to adjust and keep ourselves on our feet. When we lose our balance into that backwards direction, it's going to be an eccentric contraction of the muscle, or the muscle is lengthening. And then how quickly you can hold that position and bring it back to neutral is what will keep you from falling. So starting off in sitting is a great way to just try to build that abdominal eccentric strength and then see if you can return it. So just sitting in a firm chair and then you lean back, see how far you can go, and then bring yourself back up to that starting position and just get a feel for what that starting position is. If you do this with your eyes closed, It will help you even more develop a position sense of your trunk and where it is in space. And you can add rotations to this as well. And the faster that you go, the more you'll challenge those muscles to stabilize. If you anchor your feet, you'll be able to get much more of an abdominal contraction, kind of like doing a sit-up on the floor. But I can work a little bit more speed and just challenge my abdominals more. Once I'm able to consistently do that without any pain for 2 or 3 sets of 10, then I'm going to move to a more functional position for the trunk strategy, which is in standing. When we walk and we lose our balance, occasionally it will be from a position where our feet are together, so you can do that leaning back strategy. You can get yourself against the wall and reach back and see how far you can touch your shoulders or your head and still bring it back to start, and then measure how far away from the wall you come to be able to determine your progress. I reach back, I tap, I do 5 or so, step away further, and see how far I can go. This is going to bring the hip flexors into play much more than that sitting exercise. The sitting was predominantly abdominals. This is going to be hip flexors and abdominals. Now, the last way you want to tweak this exercise is to get yourself into a staggered stance, like it is when we walk. And then from there, I'm going to do that same lean back move and see if I can stabilize. This is going to work that back hip way more as far as the hip flexor goes. So make sure you're working both sides and you're able to bring yourself back home. Let's just say you're walking, your balance gets perturbed, you try your ankle strategy, it doesn't work. You try your trunk strategy, it doesn't work. Your center of gravity now leaves your base of support, and the only way you can keep yourself from falling is to take a step. Well, that third strategy is called the steppage strategy. So we're gonna do an exercise to help build that steppage strategy so your last line of defense is the defense that keeps you from falling. One of the most important aspects of this exercise is that it's purely reactionary. But to build that, we need to make sure we have the strength and the range of motion to be able to do that safely. So we're just gonna start with doing a small lunge series in several directions. As we said, most falls happen which way? Backwards. So most importantly is going to be a backward lunge. We can just start with a small step, just reaching back, keeping our balance, 5 times, switch. I'm back. It may not seem like much, but the faster you do this, the more you're priming your system to be able to build up and develop that stepping response. Next, we'll do sets of 5 laterally, stepping out to the side. If I get perturbed sideways, I'm walking on a slight grade sideways. I'm going to be more inclined to fall laterally. So this side stepping will help build up that strength. And you see, I'm absorbing that with my knee and hip here. I'm not just stepping over like that. I'm absorbing so I can pick up that knee, ankle, and hip strategy to help, as well as the trunk. Another layer of difficulty you can add to this exercise is give yourself some sort of object to step over as you're doing that steppage response. Of course, make sure safety is the most important thing with your exercise, but that's causing you to force that leg to lift, which is going to give you more range of motion to be able to go through to stop your fall. One of our favorite things to do in physical therapy with patients that are coming to work on their balance is to put a gait belt around them for safety and then push them around, pull them around. In each direction that we pull, you have to step and react to that. Much more difficult to do at home, obviously. If you have someone with you, you just have them randomly say, step back, step left, step forward, and that will cause your nervous system to be in a more reactive mode, which helps this exercise program much more. If you're alone, then you can just use something like a metronome that just beeps and set different tempos to the metronome, and you can work on having to step, and then you have to step according to the beat rather than just whenever you feel like it. That's still some reactivity of your nervous system, which is going to help get you more balanced. To watch another video to see how likely you are to fall, click over here. Subscribe to the channel, click over here.